Good morning, students. Welcome again to my biology class, or to our biology class. Today we are continuing our lesson on the circulatory system. All right. Now, let's review the function of the circulatory system. What does the circulatory system do to the body? Anyone? Very good. The circulatory system delivers the blood, which contains water and oxygen, to the different parts of the body, to the lungs and to the different organs, so that the organs will function well, and so that the body will be able to maintain homeostasis. Now, our circulation is divided into two. You have your pulmonary circulation, and also you have your systemic circulation. What's the difference between the two? Can anyone tell the difference between the two? Okay, all right. Pulmonary circulation is the circulation of the blood from the heart to the lungs, back into the heart, while the systemic circulation is the circulation of the blood from the heart, the different organs, back to the heart. Okay, pulmo means lungs. The root word is pulmo, means lungs. And systemic means the system, the organ systems. What are your organ systems? Give me one. Okay, you have your digestive system composed of your what? Your stomach and your intestine. You have your nervous system composed of your brain and your spinal cord. What else? You have your musculoskeletal system. Very good. It is composed of your skeleton and your muscles and many others that we're going to study later on. Okay? Now, blood, as we have said, contains water, not only water, but also oxygen. Now, we all know that water is very important. All cells are made of water. All animals, all plants, all human beings are made of water. You die if you don't drink water. And oxygen is also needed for the function of all the organ systems. Okay? Now, let's now begin studying pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation, the flow of blood. If you look at your book on page 944 or 945, especially 944, it's gonna drive you nuts. There are so many arrows going this way, to the east, right, west, left. And also, you know, the blood vessels are kindly coiled up. It's really very confusing. What I did is that I tried to simplify it so that you can understand better. I tried to simplify the major blood vessels, and I made the heart like a Valentine's heart, so that it will be easier to understand. And I'm telling you, it's really easy to understand. It's not really that confusing. Blood is not always oxygenated. Okay? If you have an oxygenated blood, you also have a non-oxygenated blood. Oxygenated has oxygen, while non-oxygenated has no oxygen. So, let's start now with the non-oxygenated blood. The non-oxygenated blood will originate from the right side of the heart. let's say the right ventricle. And you know that the heart has 4 chambers, right? We studied that the other day. You have your right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, and left ventricle. And if you're confused as to why this is the right and this is the left, it's like this. If we are all looking at the board, including me, this is my left hand. Okay? And this is my right hand. That's very clear, that's very obvious. But if you look at my front, just like you're looking at the front of whoever owns this heart, maybe a human being or an animal, my left hand looks like it is on the right side, while my right hand looks like it is on the left side. Okay? So this is the right side of the heart, this is the left side of the heart. We're going to represent non-oxygenated blood by the color blue and the oxygenated blood by the color red. I have given you this drawing because I want you to follow after me. We're going to trace the flow of blood. We're going to trace pulmonary circulation and systemic circulation using color pencils. In your case, while I use the markers. Now, seatmates, please check your partner's works. Make sure that they are doing it right. Okay? So, the non-oxygenated blood will come from the right side of the heart, let's say from the right ventricle. It will pass through this valve here, and then it goes now to the pulmonary artery. And what is the definition of an artery again, as we learned the other day? An artery carries blood away from the heart, while a vein carries blood back to the heart. Okay, so from the pulmonary artery, the non-oxygenated blood will go to the lungs. What's going to happen in the lungs? In the lungs, oxygenation will happen. Oxygenation. D-I-O-N means a process, right? So it is the process of getting oxygen. We inhale, and when we inhale, we get in oxygen. So now we get in, we receive a lot of oxygen. Okay, and then when we exhale, we release carbon dioxide. We let go of carbon dioxide. And as we all know, carbon dioxide is a waste product. So what happens to the blood now? The blood now becomes oxygen rich or oxygen poor? Very good. It becomes oxygen rich. Blood will leave the lungs. The oxygenated blood will leave the lungs. It will pass through different veins until it reaches the pulmonary vein, and the oxygenated blood will enter the left side of the heart, the left atrium. It will pass through this valve, or it will pass through this gate. It will to go to the left ventricle. It will pass through this gate, or it will pass through this valve to enter the biggest artery of the human body, or actually of all animals, called the aorta. The aorta now will branch into different arteries carrying the oxygenated blood, and the oxygenated blood will go to the organs. So now your organ systems are receiving enough oxygen and water, and they're now functioning very well. So what happens is oxygen will be depleted. Why? Because the cells of the organs are using them. So you have lesser oxygen here in time, while you accumulate more carbon dioxide. Why? Because they are the products of metabolism. As the organs are functioning well, they get in the oxygen, at the same time they release carbon dioxide as a waste product. And so what happens now to your carbon dioxide? It will mix with the blood, and so that blood now becomes oxygenated or non-oxygenated? Non-oxygenated, very good. It will mix with the blood to become a non-oxygenated blood, and it will go to the different veins until it reaches the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. It reaches the right atrium, passing through this valve, goes to the right ventricle, and then passing through this valve again, and another cycle will begin. That is your pulmonary and your systemic circulation. Okay, pulmonary circulation again, the circulation of blood from the heart to the lungs, back to the heart, and your systemic circulation is circulation of the blood from the heart to the organs, back to the heart. We mentioned these valves. Oh, by the way, do you have any question before we continue? Now, we mentioned about these valves. Now, the valves are gates. Now, the function of the valve is what? What do you think is the function of the valve? The valve prevents blood from going back. So the valve serves as gates so that blood will not go back to where it came from, to prevent backflow. So the valve prevents backflow of blood. Supposing you're not eating healthy, you eat a lot of deep fried chicken, French fries, delicious, deep fried pork, deep fried beef, and you also eat the fatty material there. What's gonna happen? In time, the fats that you've eaten, they will accumulate, they will congregate, and they're gonna clog your blood vessels. And so if they clog your blood vessels there, the delivery of blood will be compromised. Blood will not be able to flow because you have accumulation of fats here, you know. So blood accumulation of fats there. So blood will be flowing not in a good way. Now, supposing you develop plaques or accumulations of fats here in your valve. What's gonna happen now? The valve will become what? It will become useless. So instead of the valve, you know, becoming useful, the blood now cannot prevent the backflow of blood. So what happens is the blood will now go backwards. What happens to your heart now? Your heart will have to exert more pressure, contracting. Okay? It will exert more effort. So what happens to the blood pressure of the person? It goes up, and that is very dangerous. What happens now to the size of your heart? It will become smaller or bigger? What do you think? It will become bigger. Why? Because blood cannot pass through. So there is blood trying to go here, trying to leave the heart, and there is also blood trying to get back. So your heart will become bigger and bigger. And then in time, the blood will go back to the lungs, and then your lungs will become enlarged with fluid and blood, and the person will now have difficulty breathing. and then in time the blood will go back to the pulmonary artery, to the right ventricle and the right atrium, and so in time this will become large also, and then it will pass through here. It goes back to the organ systems, and then for all you know, your organs are already enlarged, they're already big. Why? Because of the backflow of blood. That's why patients have enlarged knees, enlarged ankles, enlarged feet, swollen feet. Okay? So, let's recap. Our lesson today is the pulmonary circulation and the systemic circulation. Again, blood from the non-oxygenated blood from the right side of the heart, we leave the right ventricle, passing through the pulmonary artery. It goes to the lungs where it will be oxygenated, okay, and where carbon dioxide will be eliminated. Oxygenated blood will go through the pulmonary vein. It goes to the left side of the heart. From the left side of the heart, it goes to the aorta and carrying the oxygenated blood, and then it goes to the organ systems. The organs will now utilize the oxygen which the blood is carrying. Now in the organs, the oxygen will be depleted because the organs are using them, and there will be an accumulation of carbon dioxide as a waste product, and so carbon dioxide now will mix with the blood, and so you now have an unoxygenated blood represented by a blue color. It goes back to the right atrium and right ventricle, or to the right side of the heart, and that's it. Now you're going to answer a series of questions, just less than 10 questions. You and your partner will help each other. I'm going to call you in random. I'm going to pick up popsicle sticks, and whosever name appears in the popsicle stick will answer the question. Okay, so you better work now. So are there any questions? Okay, let's do your work now.